I can't see you, so you gotta tell me.
We're live.
Well,
Oh, didn't go.
yeah. Having a little technical difficulty.
This is what we have to do to avoid copyright infringement.
Jeopardy.
This is Jeopardy! Now entering our panel discussion are today's group of experts. We have Elliot. We have Woj.
An account clerk from Mineola, New York.
We have David.
Hey, everybody.
And I'm Scott. And today, and Elliot, you can kill the music there. And today we're discussing the hot topic of Jeopardy. And before we do want to mention something that happened in the news, give a brief news update. A couple weeks ago, as you may have well known, we lost, I guess we can call him a legend, a legendary contestant. We lost Charles Van Doren a couple weeks ago at the age of 96.
93.
93. So thank you, Woj, on that. I'm adding 3 more years. But and anything that you guys want to say?
Well,
it
took him many decades to come out and tell his side of the story, since Herbert Stempel had long come out and told his side of the story in various documentaries and a Emmy Legends interview. But it took until about 2008 for Charles to write an article for New Yorker magazine to tell his side of the story, since he suffered more in terms of his career and his life than most other contestants due to his notoriety and his family name being part of the intellectual Van Doren family. And I mean, there's not much you can say about him that hasn't already been said, but he is part of television history. He tried his best to remain humble in the years after the scandal and try to rebuild his life. And I'm glad to know that by the end of his life, he was at peace with the whole matter.
Us here at Game Show Talking Fun, we send our condolences to the Van Doren family at this time as well, too.
Yeah,
so,
he is survived by his many grandchildren.
Yes. All right. So with that out of the way, so we have no Smash or Trash tonight, due to the simple fact because this is really a hot topic.
This would be the Smash or Trash.
Yeah.
Well, this is actually the whole show.
Yeah.
Is about this. So we'll turn the floor over to David, Elliot, or Matt to fill us in on the details.
Okay. I cannot pronounce this guy's last name, so I'll just call him James.
Holzhauer.
Okay. This guy is on a 17-game winning streak. Now, that's not unheard of on Jeopardy. There's been a few contestants that have actually done it.
3 more.
3 more contestants that have actually done it. So it's not exactly out there.
Right.
What's out there is how this guy is doing it. And Elliot, if you'll pull up that spreadsheet you've got for us.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I have this also statistics here and also comparisons to Ken Jennings here, courtesy of the JeopardyFan.com.
Okay. Now, if you'll take a look there, his run as champion began on April 4th, 2019. That 91 won $43,860. Now,
He won 40.
he said that one heck of a payday.
But there's more.
Yep.
He keeps on going.
He keeps on going.
On day 4, he breaks the first day he breaks the record. On day 9, he breaks it. He does it again. On day 10, he breaks his own record, and then 2 more times remember the record was 77,000. I think he has either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times he's gotten beaten that 77,000 record out of 17 games.
Now, keep
That
in mind, the season's not over yet, but the season has already finished taping. We do not know how long this run is going to continue.
This could continue, I think, for as long as 65 more episodes, since we got the college tournament and the teachers tournament coming up.
Right.
That's true. Now, if you look there, Elliot has got his average winnings per night.
Currently $75,045. And the highest win before he came on, the highest win was 77,000. So he's averaging almost the highest win every day.
Right. And I will say this, just looking this up real quick, because of James, they banned the bidding of $69 in Final Jeopardy.
What?
Well, that's not all.
How? What did he bet $69 once? He didn't do that.
Well, the only thing I know that's been banned, and James has confirmed this on Facebook, is that starting tomorrow, the April 29th episode, the staff came to him and told him that he's no longer allowed to make Final Jeopardy shout-outs.
Oh, okay.
I don't know anything about the $69 ban, if it's true.
Translation, he's not allowed to use his Final Jeopardy podium to say hello to this person or that person. He must actually answer the question.
Yeah, he's going to have to go on The Price is Right to dispense all of that at the wheel.
I don't see him going on a show like that. That's out of his range there.
Now, if you look at this, and we'll take a look at his daily doubles. His last game, he didn't find any of them.
And he still had 29,600 before it was all over.
Yeah. He didn't find any of them, and he still had 29 grand before Final Jeopardy. But look at his other games. He's either found 2 of the 3 or has found all 3 of them.
Yeah, there's only one game. His second game, he only found 1.
And the second game was the only one where it was not a runaway game.
Now that's the thing here. Understand, 16 out of 17 games, he's had this thing locked. He could not be caught.
Right.
And the most he ever lost on a daily double was $8,000.
Now, Woj, stop me if I'm wrong here. That second game, in theory, you said he could be caught, but was it a long shot, or could he seriously been passed?
Let's look up the Jeopardy archive right now. We're going to...
Yeah. So while we're looking up that, I'm going to find one of the articles.
Yeah, because interesting to note that at this point, 17 games in, James has correctly responded to 607 clues and has missed 22.
Okay,
and by comparison, by this point, Ken Jennings had 596 correct and 48 incorrect.
All right, do you want to hear the stats? The end of Double Jeopardy in Game 2, James had 29,114, Statish had 18,800, and Marshall had 4,000.
Okay. She could have, in theory, caught him, but she would have had to go big.
Well... but
he got it right. So it didn't
matter. James got it right, but his opponent got it wrong.
Okay. So it kind of made it a non-issue. He still won.
Yeah, Satish didn't even have an answer, and Marshall said, "What is Lisbon?" Yeah, the category was European capitals. The clue was remove 2 letters within the 6-letter name of this capital, and you get a name of a capital of a neighboring country. So the capital, of course, is
Berlin and Bern.
Berlin. And you get burned, yes.
Yeah, they did get burned on that one.
Yep.
No pun intended.
They felt the burn.
Okay. Now, let's talk about his strategy.
Oh, hold on. I want to mention something here. This is from the Atlantic and everything. And this is coming from I believe, yeah, this is coming from the Beast himself.
Oh yes, I heard that.
Oh,
Yes, I
Yeah,
heard. I saw it.
The Beast said something about this. The and for those of you who are not familiar, the Beast is Mark Labette, one of the chasers from the Chase, and he was the chaser in the U.S. version who faced off against Holzhauer on the Chase and everything.
and lost. We got to
Yeah.
mention that the Beast lost.
Yes, he did.
But
Badly.
now he said the untrinity of Jeopardy skills. First, he has a deep trivia knowledge in training for competitions such as Jeopardy. Trivia experts typically memorize lists of presidents, world capitals, and the likes, unchanged bodies of knowledge that will pay dividends in competition. Holzhauer seems to have mastered these, but Labette is impressed by his grasp on more topical categories of information, such as sports, pop music, film, and TV. He does not appear to have any subject area weakness, which is very rare and genuine all round. Genuine all round. This
Even
is
Joe
and
Jennings had to study up on his booze.
Yeah,
Right.
you mentioned Yeah, you mentioned that he has all the different skills needed. I remember listening to the We Love to Interrupt podcast. They described him as a Frankenstein of many different Jeopardy players' strategies.
right.
Now, let's talk about his strategy. Now that
Right.
that's been mentioned, let's talk about his strategy.
Well, I want to
This
mention
is the success.
now. I want to mention something real quick. This is also from another article from The Atlantic stating Jeopardy wasn't designed for a contestant like James and everything.
No,
It
and
wasn't.
no, Jeopardy was never designed for something like this. They were completely caught with their pants down.
Right. I'm going to.
Yeah, considering up until this point, I think the average total on each day is about $20,000, and that's what they
Right.
set the budget for.
Yeah.
Right.
Whatever which a Jeopardy fan site calculated the average calculated out to be $19,980.
Yep. Just short of 20 grand.
Right.
Now,
And now this is coming also from Bob Bowden, former head of GSN, and says typically for a long running show, the prize budget is determined by way of averages of what has been won in the past. Large deviations from such averages can strain these prize budgets. James's performance, I'm sure, is causing grief for an accountant somewhere, says Bowden, who is now an executive at the production company and at Sony.
now understand one thing while we talk about this. He's really straining the prize budget. I mean,
Right.
he's over. I mean, if you look at his totals, look at the amounts he's won. He's well over the 20,000 for every single game he's played.
It's going
As
at
a matter of fact,
more than double the rate that Ken Jennings was going
Right.
at this point.
Yeah, he exceeded the if you consider a $20,000 budget, he exceeded the budget by $935,767 in his 17 games.
Right.
now, understand one thing, and me and Scott was talking about this. Scott, if you're Harry Friedman, you are not in a very good position right now.
Right.
Well,
Now,
does this mean that
Matthew, if you're Harry, what do you do?
Well, first of all, I'm just
He can't do
prepared for.
anything.
I'm just prepared for my bosses at Sony to give me a WTF speech. But in all
Okay.
seriousness, I'm thinking
Okay,
that
Elliot, if you're Harry, what do? Because they're getting
Set up a GoFundMe page.
yeah.
GoFundMe. We can't afford to give James money. Can you help?
Now,
but in all seriousness, there's really nothing he can do, considering it's basically the same thing that the staff of Press Your Luck went through with Michael Larson.
right
Once he started,
now,
they couldn't stop him.
now, according to what I've heard, and this is because there's been a similar discussion between Harry Friedman and Alex Trebek. Harry Friedman has told Alex Trebek, just keep it going. And Alex has said, this guy's going to walk away with Sony.
Now, there's one strategy they can apply, which is perfectly legal. Make incredibly difficult daily doubles. He will bet on them big anyway and lose. That's the only legal option they have.
Well, can't they just make and this was something I was discussing with David as well in conversation. And I think this is also in their legal rights. Can't they just make the clues harder and have the game end up in a 0-0 where none of them come back?
It's probably not. It'd be pretty tough to do that. Also, they would know that would make it. If they just do the daily doubles, they can get away with that. But if they make all the clues harder,
I don't know about that, considering that when
you couldn't get away with that.
Two other players that also aren't going to get it either. You have to defeat him, and his Achilles heel is the daily doubles. When he is getting the daily doubles wrong.
Now, pre-night. Now, here's the thing.
I want to mention this real quick, going back to the chase real quick.
Okay.
In fact, Bowden was the producer of the chase, the show on which Lebret had to contend against James. Watching from the control room, we were dumbfounded by how well he did. Bowden remembers, so dumbfounded, in fact, that he later had James audition to join the show as a colleague of the Beast.
He actually got 12 questions right in the cash builder.
Yeah.
And he got most of the questions right in the final chase.
Right. But would you, if the chase was still continuing, I know we're getting a little off topic here, do you think James would have been a good chaser?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Him and the Beast.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll never know. We also know that other people auditioned to be chasers. Hell, we know
Brad
Brad
Rutter.
Rutter was auditioned. We know Ken Jennings was auditioned.
Oh, that was back for the Fox pilot.
Yeah, but we know they were auditioned to be chasers.
I think they tried to get Nancy Christie at one point.
Yes, that's what I heard too.
The governess?
No, Nancy Christie, the first woman to win $1 million on Millionaire.
Oh.
Yep.
Well, Millionaire really isn't a good test of trivia as far as how good they are. It's mainly it's more getting 15 questions lucky.
All right.
Jeopardy is more of a test because they can't test your trivia in the long run.
All right then. We've got off topic here for a couple of seconds. Now, let's talk about James's strategy. Because you've got 61 clues that make up a game of Jeopardy. 4 of those 61 clues, you could bet the farm on. Now, the catch here is if you knew when those questions were going to come, you could run away with it. Now, that's exactly the strategy that James has employed. He has cracked the code of the Jeopardy game board.
Right, and
if you could get the daily doubles last in every round and run the board, you could get about $500,000 at least.
Well, that's pending if the daily doubles are all in the 200 or the 400.
Even if they won the
But that's the thing. They are not.
You could
that's the thing. They are not.
Give or take.
Let's talk about that. Woj, you brought that up in conversation before the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what they can legally do. I mean, first of all, making the questions harder. I mean, considering that before every show they have a database full of templates, grids, and clues, so they would have to, in standards and practice, pick the games before the show. I mean, there's really nothing they can do there. I mean, the only way I could see compliance, the only thing I could see them allowing is to randomize the daily doubles so they can land in the 200, or maybe put 2 daily doubles in the same category in Double Jeopardy.
That would
Now-
they never do that. That's I don't know if it's the rules, but it'd be unwise for them to do that.
Right. Now, Woj, I think you mentioned this before. How were the daily doubles stacked? And for those of people who are not familiar with Jeopardy during the era of King World, how were the daily doubles placed in the early days of Jeopardy before Sony?
Well, I know that even going back to the Art Fleming era, you would see them at the top of the column, so they could appear anywhere in the pre-Sony era. I mean, it's in the Sony era that they started appearing in the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th clue in each column. I don't know if Sony did that deliberately.
They still
Just
have
to get more
they still have in the second. They still have occasionally in the second clue. But
Yeah, but that's
clue.
rare.
Rare.
Yeah. Now I also saw a graphic a long time ago. The most popular, most frequently placed places for the daily doubles is the 4th clue in the 1st and 3rd columns. Those are the 2 most prominent places for daily doubles to be.
I remember
Now-
seeing that grid too.
Yep.
Now, like I said, 61 clues in a game. 4 of them you can bet the farm on. If you knew where to look for those clues, then you take the show for a ride, and that's exactly what James has done. He's cracked his code. Now, while that's not against the rules, I think he's the first. He's really the first contestant to intentionally look for the daily doubles. This particular way.
Oh, I got that number now. 544,000.
The board.
544,000.
Go ahead, Elliot.
Even if the clues are all hidden in the bottom section. Oh, that's not right. It's about. I got that wrong. It's less than 544,000. Let me try that again. I'll get back to you.
Yeah, this method was first done back in the early 80s when Chuck Forrest, and it was known as the Forrest Bounce. He was really just going around randomly looking for daily doubles. And we had seen that also subsequently with champions like Arthur Chu and Roger Craig, who also
fished the board.
Yeah,
we call it fishing the board.
Yeah, and it was really abused in the recent All-Star Games tournament. But James is really just methodically going through all the thousands, then the 800s, and then the 600s.
Looking.
528,000 is the number.
Okay. And then he's just systematically after that clearing out the column.
Yeah, that way he can maximize his total. But so by the time he gets the daily double in Single Jeopardy, he can lock up the game by the end of Single Jeopardy because he's gotten to 20,000 a few times.
Right.
Now, truth be told, I haven't been able to watch Jeopardy since his run began because the Carolina Hurricanes have been on a playoff run. They've been broadcasting the games, the playoffs, all over on the network where Jeopardy airs down here. So
you have it on NBC, don't you?
Yeah.
That's why NBC has all the hockey games.
I mean, does it eventually get preempted till like 2:30 in the morning?
Yeah, but I'm out like a light by then, and I don't have a DVR, so I just flat out miss.
They used to show YouTube up until about a month and a half ago.
I'm sorry?
So they used to have all the episodes of Jeopardy on YouTube up until about a month and a half ago. Then somebody cracked down on them.
Well, Sony's been cracking down on that for several years now. I mean, especially accelerated in the last few years after their email hacking scandal and their filing for bankruptcy.
Now, Scott?
Yes.
We all know what Michael Larson did to press your luck. You of all people.
Right. Why me? I just want to know why me of all people.
Because you are one of the super fans.
So am I, Dave.
And
Yeah, and
so
we've
is
also
so
seen,
is Elliot. I'm sorry. Yes,
and we've
Elliot.
also seen this.
I've actually done it on my own program. I ran that. I did the Michael Larson trick, and I can do it too.
Yeah, but I'm trying to say is that we've also seen this on The Price is Right with the perfect bid over a decade ago.
Right.
Now, have we really come to a point? Because Michael Larson, in an interview for Good Morning America, he said point blank, "I wish I could have got on Jeopardy. I think I found some tricks on that." Is this the trick you think Michael Larson is speaking of?
I
Now,
really don't think so.
all right. So here's my question. Probably Woj can answer this because Woj, in '93, is that when Sony acquired Jeopardy?
Well, it came under Sony's full ownership in 1994. That was when you saw the Sony logo appearing at the end of the show. Although Sony or Columbia really had vested interest going all the way back to 1986 when Merv's company came under the ownership of Columbia in '86, but they took full ownership in '94. Although Merv was still the executive producer of both Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune until 2000.
So if let's just say, for the sake of argument, let's say Merv was still alive today, how would he feel about somebody like James?
I mean, I think it would go both ways. I mean, he'd be happy for the publicity, but basically a sick feeling in his stomach for the paycheck. I mean, I would be guessing that it'd be like the time on Wheel of Fortune where somebody spun all the way to $60,000+ in a round and eventually called a dud letter. I mean, I probably breathed a sigh of relief there.
I don't remember that. We'll have to talk about that in
that was like in the late early '80s.
Yeah.
I think it was like 84, 85.
I don't remember. Now, we have a couple of friends here. Philip Cousin comes to mind. Now that I'm going to break from Jeopardy here for a second.
All right.
Philip Cousin took Wheel of Fortune for 57,000 plus. I think that was the final total.
It was 65.6.
$65,600.
All cash.
Friend of mine got $8 or $8,000 on it.
I mean,
He had 50,000.
it's not unheard of that. But I think for Philip that night, the stars were on his side because Wheel of Fortune, you're one and done. If they'd still had the 5-day limit rule on Wheel of Fortune, do you think Philip could have did it again?
I think
Maybe.
it's very likely so. I mean, it just depends on his luck with the wheel.
Well, the 5-day
That
rule
night
was
he
only on
was
daytime.
extremely lucky.
5-day rule was only on early daytime episodes.
And
It
I mean,
went down to 3.
Yeah, they had a 3-day limit on the syndicated version in 1989, and they abolished it in 1996 when they went to the Friday finals concept.
Right. And I remember prime time, at least you had the 5-day champion as well in the primetime version too.
No, it was never 5. It was 3 was the max.
Yeah, it was in 1998 when Wheel of Fortune instituted the one and done policy.
Right.
Okay. So now back to Jeopardy.
So go ahead.
Do you think James, because of what he's done, do you think Harry will be forced to reinstitute the 5-day limit rule?
It's a possibility.
I don't think so.
I don't. They still get.
I mean, he didn't do it with Ken Jennings, and he didn't do it with Julia Collins, and he's not going to do it because of James.
Okay, now that's a good point.
You might institute a money cap of $2.5 million or something like that.
Right. You got to understand.
Not a number.
You got to understand. It took Ken Jennings 74 games to get 2.5 million. Took 74 games.
That was about 33,000.
Yeah, but he didn't really put the prize budget in, quote, jeopardy. This guy, every time he steps up to the podium, he's broken the prize budget.
Yeah, but if you remember, Ken Jennings in a few of his games deliberately tied the one-day record just to troll with Alex.
Yeah.
But
and then that one day he finally did break it.
Yeah, and also out of 75 games, if I remember correctly, 56 out of 75 were runaways.
This guy has had 16 of 17, which are runaways.
Ken Jennings' last game, he got those 2 daily doubles wrong. I think that's the only way that James is going to fall, if he gets those daily doubles wrong.
But the main question is, how long can he continue like this?
You never, probably forever. Probably.
Only Sony knows.
Now,
but if he knows, only Sony knows if he made it all the way to the end of the season. If he did make it to the end of the season, it'll still go forever. You don't know.
Are we? I guess you say, are we all in agreement that James has cracked the code, so to speak, or do you think he's just been lucky?
Not necessarily lucky. He just knows a lot of stuff. He knows the strategy.
I'd say it's a little of both.
He knows a lot of stuff. I mean, if you don't know a lot of stuff, you can't win the game. No matter how good your strategy is, if you don't know your stuff, you're out.
It all comes down. You have to get the questions right.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. You got to get the questions right, but you also, 61 clues, 3 you can bet the farm on, 1 you have to answer whether you want to or not.
Right.
4 of them you can bet the farm on.
And also, I recently heard a story from the We Love to Interrupt podcast about James, about when he went to the Trivia Championships in North America. Basically, they were playing a lot of different games, including blockbusters, and James, for I think 2 hours, was the only one to get questions right in all the games of blockbusters they did.
And that goes, and we want to give a shout out to those guys that run that, and especially Travis and his crew out there that do the game show marathon for charity and everything. So shout out to you, to Home Game Entertainment out there, and the guys
on a couple of those.
Now, Woj,
Yes, David.
If you're Harry Friedman, okay, and you are called onto the carpet, so to speak, to get this guy, to reel this guy in, what do you personally do?
Well, to reel him in as far as incentivize or something?
Well, as more along the lines of to try to, quote, stop the bleeding, so to speak, because every time he steps up to the mic, they're going $50,000 roughly over the prize budget.
Well, considering the fact that there's really no subject that they can really put on that he wouldn't know, considering he hasn't really been particularly weak in any particular area. I know I've said I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but I think starting next season, he's going to have to stop putting the daily doubles in their usual places.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know I'm asking this question several different ways.
right.
What do we do?
You gotta hit it where it hurts. Make the daily doubles impossible to guess. That's his weak point right there. He bets big on the daily doubles, but if he bets big and gets them wrong, that's the only way he's gonna fail. Because if you make a couple of all the questions tough, then he's still gonna be the best out of the bunch. But if you make the ones that he's gonna get, just those daily doubles, that's where he's gonna lose money. He can lose $2,000 on a question, but he can lose $30,000 on a daily double. That's
Woj, I think Woj, you said this off the record one night, so forgive me if I'm bringing it on the record. You said we may as well just cut this guy a $250,000 check right now.
I mean, that's what I said cynically, considering $250,000 for the next Tournament of Champions will be chump change for him. I mean, but it'll be difficult to really call him a legend since he hasn't competed in any alumni tournaments. I mean, Brad Rutter didn't really become a legend until he won that Ultimate Tournament of Champions.
Well, even then, he wasn't really legendary. Not in my opinion.
He had only won the $1 Million Masters, and he was the new guy there, so he didn't really become legendary until he won the $2 million in the Ultimate Tournament in 2005.
When he beat Ken.
Yes.
Yeah. And we don't even count the battle against Watson. That was a farce.
Yeah. He beat Ken Jennings. Watson doesn't count because that's
he's not a human.
It's not a human, yeah.
But it was fun to see.
He wins the All-Star tournament. Him and his team shared another $1 million.
Yeah, so I think Brad is up to 4.6 million in winning. So if he wants Brad's record, he's going to have to, go into next season.
Now we have to remember, if he wants Brad's record, Brad's got 2 records: most money won on Jeopardy, and he's the biggest winner in game show history. If he wants to challenge both of those records, he's going to have to pour it on.
He's going to have to beat the champion until probably October or November.
Right, if he wants that kind of stuff.
Here it is. His highest earning Jeopardy is $4,788,433, and his highest earning American game show contestant at $4,888,435.
Yeah, because you got to include
another million somewhere. He picked up another 100,000 somewhere.
And he won on the $1 Million Mind Game and 1 versus 100.
Ah.
Yep. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that they've said that Harry Friedman has told Alex Trebek, just try to keep it going. And Alex has jokingly said this guy's going to walk away with Sony. Sony, just like Bill Carruthers told Peter Tomarken, keep it going. And Peter Tomarken said Michael Larson is going to walk away with CBS.
Well, see, and the funny thing about
as the world turns, there's a big room for you.
I mean, I remember that's what Drew Carey thought when somebody made a perfect bid there. He thought this guy's going to walk away with the show.
Well,
that
Price is Right. All you go in is at your showcase, and we'll double both showcase, and that's it. You walk away. Game's over. You don't come back. Jeopardy has you coming back.
Well, I mean, it was controversial enough to inspire an entire documentary,
which will start airing on Netflix at the end of the month, by the way.
The Price is Right guy, you mean?
Yep.
Yeah, perfect bid, the contestant who knew too much.
Starring Jimmy Stewart and Doris Day.
Now, when it's all said and done, is he a legend? Scott, is James a legend?
I would say yes, but for the wrong reasons.
Okay, what wrong reasons?
Because of how he's doing it and everything. And like you said, everybody on that show doesn't like him. He's not bringing it. I think you told me was that they're not bringing in the ratings for that show.
No, they're not. It's not bringing in the ratings like they thought they would. Right. I mean, yes.
I'm hearing
in a row was good, but
I'm even hearing people in the poker room talk about him,
right,
and everything.
And we were talking about that.
Yeah, and I'm telling some of these players, it's like they don't like him. He's not bringing in the ratings and everything.
I think I can figure that out for a couple of reasons.
All right, then go ahead.
Yeah, one. I mean, since he starts at the bottom with the thousands and the 800s, I mean, it doesn't give the viewer the time to really warm up with the category. The fact that they're going straight into the difficult clues. So it's harder to really play along and get a rhythm with the category. Now, two, it can come down to James's personality, because if you remember with Ken Jennings, I mean, he was very witty and personable and self-deprecating, and so he was very relatable.
Same with some of the other past. Same like with Austin and everybody.
Yeah, Austin, he was the class clown there, and Buzzy was also a class clown with his Final Jeopardy snark.
Now, what about Brad?
Well, Brad, I mean, he's a very nice guy. I mean, he's a bit more robotic. I mean, he doesn't joke around as much, but he's still very smiley. And I mean, James has a similar reputation that Arthur Chu did, because Arthur Chu was very robotic and serious, and basically what they would like to call a game bot. Basically, if Watson actually became a human being. I mean, and also when Arthur buzzed in, he was very hard, just slamming the podium to get in, and was very stern about his responses. And James is much more robotic himself. I mean, he doesn't really smile that much. He's
like a poker player.
Okay. Elliot, is he a legend?
Absolutely. I mean, we never seen anything like this guy on any game show before. So other than the Beast, maybe. But
and Larson.
Yeah, well, Larson, he really know a lot of stuff. If Larson would have gotten 12 spins in both rounds, yes, we could put him on that. All Larson did was figure out the trick on the board. He decoded a pattern.
Right.
You cannot decode a pattern on Jeopardy. You just have to play the game and know your stuff. So
it's apples and oranges and bananas.
Definitely, James knows his stuff. A lot of stuff.
Okay. So this guy, so it's literally not, how would you say, he's not Larson the board per se. He's not, quote, cracked the code, but he has exploited some of the tricks of the board to his advantage.
Right. He knows the best way to make good of a daily double is to have a lot of money to begin with. If you get the daily double early, he's done that already. There is one episode where he gets the daily double on like the first clue, so all he could do was bet 1,000.
Bet the table max.
Yep.
Yeah, with his daily double push.
Yep. All in.
And trust me, I see that a lot at the poker table, but with chips.
What?
It's much more psychologically satisfying with chips, and also psychologically intimidating.
I would not. That takes guts to just push your hands in and say to Alex Trebek, "I'm all in on a daily double." You better have. That takes guts.
Well, most players would just say, "I'll make it a true daily double."
Right.
He's a bit more theatrical in the same way that Austin Rogers was.
Right. But here's the thing. For the alumni tournaments, does Jeopardy invite him to come?
Do they do another alumni tournament?
Yeah.
Well, they're going to have to wait until
another 5 years or so.
Season 40.
But here's the question. Do they do one, and is he either A, invited back, or B, is he permanently...
America wants to see him play Brad Rutter. That's going to be the bottom line. Him versus Brad Rutter is a game to watch.
I'm going to go a step further. I think America wants to see this guy face Ken and Brad.
And Watson.
He might even beat Watson. That's what I'm afraid of.
I mean, the next alumni tournament is just a matter of who will be Ken and Brad's third opponent.
I think we just found him.
No, I throw in Austin.
Well, I mean, Austin didn't even make it.
No,
right.
He didn't qualify.
Yeah, because him, Buzzy, and Julia didn't even make the finals. It was Colby's team that was the third opponent.
Right. And I just knew going into that, Brad's going to win.
We all did. I mean, I remember when that tournament was announced. It was just a matter of, I guess that they're trying to incentivize these people to come back just so they don't have to face Brad again, just so they can get on Brad's team and make a little money off of it.
Right.
Only 2 people are going to be eligible to play on for that.
Yeah, but the structure of that tournament was so broken, considering Ken and Brad didn't even have to play.
I don't see it happening again. I don't see a tournament like that happening again.
Well, I mean, I don't think we're gonna see the team concept ever come back.
Or if we do, it'll be not like that I would say each team is provided of 2 players, and each player of that team plays 1 day.
I
That would
guess
work.
considering that
That would
it
work.
would be a little more fair.
Yes.
Now,
And then still during the breaks, you're allowed to have that conference with your other team member and everything.
now, as,
Yeah. And as
now,
far as
as we,
yes, David.
now, as we weigh upon James's run, it's you know, he clinched a spot on the Tournament of Champions, an automatic spot on the Tournament of Champions when he won his 5th game.
Is that the ruling for that?
Yes,
Yes,
once
that's
you
the
have 5,
rule.
you're automatically in. Once you're at 5, you're automatically in. Then anyone else, then just by the top winners of 4 games. And if they still need players, then they
You
take
have to win 3 to be considered. 5 game winners automatically are in.
Yeah, otherwise it comes down to the money as the tiebreaker.
Right.
The question
At
is
least games to be considered. 5 game winners automatically get in. 15 slots are available.
right.
I mean, unless your unfortunate circumstances happen, like with these recent tournaments of champions, like with what was her
We've
name?
had some that's not even me. We've had, bless them, people that have passed away before the tournament could even be held.
Yeah, because I know the recent teachers tournament winner recently passed away.
Right. And
Cindy Stoll, that's her name.
Yeah. She won 6 games and she died before she could participate in the tournament.
And even Alex mentioned something about her passing too,
Yes.
and everything. So that was. Go ahead.
I didn't say anything. Keep going.
Oh, I thought Elliot did.
No.
And that was, and that was pretty nice of Alex to say something as well.
I think the show made a donation to her favorite charity or something in lieu of her not being able to participate.
Yeah, I know all of her winnings got donated to charity.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
And then from what I hear too with James, some of his money is also going to charity too.
Yeah, he already mentioned that. I forget what
Right.
particular charities he was going for, but he definitely is doing that.
Yeah.
We are, I mean, in 2005, when Ken went on his run, we had not seen anything like it.
Right.
That was a once in a generation thing. We had not seen a player like that since the days of tic-tac-toe.
Right.
Tom McKee.
Yep.
Tom McKee,
And
Larson.
And another guy named Wilbur. I think Wilbur was also another guy that broke his well into 6 digits.
Now, when
And funny you should mention about Tom. At least from what I heard, and I think Wink and Tom still talk to each other.
Yeah, I mean, I think next year is their 40th anniversary together.
Yep.
Right.
And it's now 17 games is impressive, but
Right.
do put them in the conversation of the greatest of all.
Oh, absolutely. Shared all the records. I mean, it's not a once and done deal. He's not a one trick pony, as they say. He's
he's shattering 1 day records. He's got a long way to go to beat 74.
I think he can do it.
All right.
And he's got a very long way to go to break $4.5 million.
Let's see. At this rate,
I think he could, if he goes to the end of the season, he will.
If to the end of the season, 51 games will put him. If he does 51 games, that's 3 times what he got now. That's already over 3.5.
Now with Ken, let's bring up Ken for a second here. All right.
Yeah, I know this guy. Ken has
about
called
Ken?
James insane.
Yes, we know. Yeah, but here's the thing: with Ken, did Ken Jennings run lap over a season.
Yes, it did.
Yes,
Again, he went from June 2nd, 2004 to November 30th, 2004.
Right.
And that's because his run was interrupted by a couple of tournaments.
and by the 6-week layover between seasons.
Right. But at least they
Now-
kept, and at least with Ken, they kept building it up and everything.
With
You know.
Ken, they cut. Ken had to forfeit his spot in the Tournament of Champions to participate in that ultimate tournament.
Because he got an automatic buy into the finals.
Right.
How is that? Now, I didn't know how the tournament for the Ultimate Tournament of Champions worked.
They brought back 120 of the best Jeopardy players ever
Going all the way back to season 1.
to face Ken. 2 would get the chance to face against Ken for what? $2 million
$2
or was it
million.
$1 million?
$2
For
million.
$2 million.
So it came down to Brad, Ken, and somebody else.
And Frank.
No, it was Jerome.
Jerome.
Right. So
Jerome
how
Harris.
did that? So how did that work? It was a single elimination.
It started out as single elimination. It went for about a month or two, and then all the winners of the first phase went on to the second phase, along with what they called the Nifty Nine, in which they had seeded players automatically go to the second phase based on their accomplishments, and that's how Brad Rutter got in, since he won the $1 Million Masters.
Okay.
And then there was single elimination there, and then the third one, all the winners came back for another single elimination game. And then for the fourth phase, the 6 remaining players did a 2-day total point affair, and the winner got to face Ken Jennings in a 3-day total point affair.
Right.
For $2 million, which Brad won.
Yeah, it was a 3-month-long tournament.
Yeah, Brad. Here I have the final score. Brad's final score was 62,000. Ken had 34,599, and Jerome had 20,600.
I don't.
So, do you think we'd ever see something like that again, like an
Tournament.
ultimate tournament?
That long? I don't think so.
I don't
Not
think
after
so.
the no.
And also, you got to consider the fact that these champions that won in the 80s are all practically senior citizens now.
Right.
If we had the seniors tournament, probably.
They stopped doing the seniors tournament mainly because they're much slower at the buzzers, and it was just not fun to watch.
Right. That's
Yeah,
why Harry Friedman discontinued the tournament.
Yeah,
It was replaced with a teachers tournament, wasn't it?
the teachers tournament is recent.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Anyone,
seniors tournament was-
anyone suggest that we should send Brian to participate in the teachers tournament?
Why not?
Actually, that wouldn't be such a bad idea.
Yeah,
Brian, if you're watching this,
Applause to our former colleague, Brian Sapinski. You know, we
Brian,
nominate
if you
for the teachers tournament right now.
Brian, if you're watching this, go try out for the teachers tournament.
when you're done getting on Press Your Luck.
He's not.
Yeah, but I was.
They wanted. He told me they wanted to keep the show West Coast.
Okay.
I mean East Coast. They wanted to keep the show more to the people in LA.
Okay.
So, but they did recommend him for
card show.
the big money match game. 19.
Or the pyramid.
No, Pyramid's already wrapped up taping.
Yeah, Pyramid's wrapped up. Now, as we sit here and we debate, as we sit here and debate James's amazing accomplishments, Scott.
Yeah.
What do you drum up publicity for all this? How do you drum up the publicity? Because clearly, not many people are paying much attention.
No, but everyone in the poker room at Foxwoods, where I work at, most of those people are talking about this kid.
Okay.
So it's being talked about amongst, you know,
Well,
can't
he identifies himself as a professional gambler.
sports gambler.
Yeah.
He's a sports bettor.
Yeah. But that's how he identifies himself as. He identifies his occupation as a sports bettor.
Right. And I think if I was in that position, I would identify myself as a game show expert and everything.
If that is a real job.
Right. Now, Woj, what would you do to drum up the publicity and turn this thing around to being a possible positive experience?
Well, I mean, I think it was said best in the movie Quiz Show that Americans don't watch for an intellectual exercise, they watch for the money. And I think they really need to emphasize the money going up and up and up every show. That way, people will be sucked in to really see the total go up and see if he can beat his own record again.
Right. That was said at the end of Quiz Show, if I remembered correctly. That was when Dan Enright was facing the panel.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mentioned that with Charles Van Doren's recent passing.
Yes.
Elliot, what would you do to drum up positive?
Basically, right now, just about I think the newspapers and the TV media and these even on Sports Center, that they're all doing it. They're doing Sony's jobs for them, like letting everybody know, hey, there's this guy, you should turn on and watch him. I mean, what else can you do but advertise? Well, you can advertise, but that's the only way. But how do you advertise Jeopardy? I mean, no, the only you do is have your Jeopardy commercials. Maybe if you're watching the channel that airs the show, say watch James go on go for game 18 with his total of this $1 million or whatever.
I mean, this is really not the kind of show that airs a bunch of times or will show up on demand or Netflix. This is a show, if you miss it, you miss it.
Yeah, you got to you're not going to get in new viewers. It's very difficult to get new viewers into this game. Either you like Jeopardy, you don't. You're going to watch it or you're not, and that's it. It's not like it's very difficult to get new people. You might get a few new people, but I don't think it's going to be enough to really.
Especially considering just getting people outside of the current demographics.
Right. Now, there's an interesting YouTube video posted by Jeopardy on their YouTube page comparing James and Roger Craig. The day he won $110,914. The day he literally beat Larson's score.
Many people have beaten Larson's score in one day, especially on Price is Right.
True. But I'm talking Jeopardy. Yeah, I'm talking Jeopardy here.
Yeah, he was the first person to win a six-figure amount in a regular game.
Right. You know what would have been funny if he actually made it to a score coming out to $110,237.
I doubt we ever see that.
I don't even know if he's even aware of the idea.
Yeah, I doubt we ever see that, but
yeah,
Elliot would do that.
I would do that, but I don't think he would.
Right. No, and speaking of Jeopardy, I know they just had their recent test and everything. Yeah. So how did you guys do?
I got 26 out of 50.
And how many do they consider to be passing?
I think it's 35.
Yeah, what I do is when I take the test, I also take a video of my screen and play the video back and write down all the questions and look them up on Google to find out what I got.
And they and do that
during the test. That's a little bit too tricky.
Yeah, that's the thing. Even if you try to do that, since they give the test over multiple days, even if you try to do that and give the answers to your friends, it's not going to help, considering the questions are going to be different for all 3 days.
Because I had a tablet, I could take the exam, but
yeah, they're one step ahead of you.
Yeah. But
and how did they do it before they started doing it online? You just had to wait for them to come to the city and everything.
What you do is, when I took the college test back in the 90s, you sent in postcards. and what I learned that that they do is that they if they see multiple entries of the same name in a given mailing, they'll throw out the duplicates. So what I did was I did one postcard at a time over the course of 2 weeks. And both years I got a response back. I got a letter saying this is where they are. This is where you got to go. So I went the first time I lived in Pittsburgh at the time. So I went to Cleveland. The second time I went to DC.
Right. And I almost got on Jeopardy myself too.
Which kind of game was it?
It was for the teen tournament.
Did you pass the test?
I passed the audition that my high school was giving. I was the alternate, and everybody in that whole school, everyone that knew me said that should have been you. You should have been going there.
You should have been the one going to Los Angeles.
No, they were actually in Philadelphia for the teen tournament.
Oh.
Yeah, that year, the 2001, they were in Philadelphia for the teen tournament.
I don't think they've done a location series for a while, have they, Woj?
Well, the last time I remember they did that was the Power Players Week in 2016. They did it in Washington, D.C. But that was the last time they did a location taping.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
They did one at the college tournament in Pittsburgh one year. They had Pitt and Carnegie Mellon both represented there.
Yeah, oddly enough, I mean, because that was the first time I saw a game show in person in 1999 when they came to Madison Square Garden. Yeah, they were doing the second half of the teen tournament in '99 at Madison Square Garden. Yeah,
So
I remember.
When they did that, did Jeopardy have to pay for everyone's hotel room and everything for like the contestants?
I would think so.
And they do say accommodations provided by so-and-so hotel.
Yeah, considering that they had to uproot themselves from Culver City. I mean, I remember it was during one of the first. I think it was one of the final games. One of the contestants actually wrote down the correct response, then crossed it out, and then wrote an incorrect response, and they had to stop tape to determine the legality of that.
Well, whatever is uncrossed out is the one that counts.
Yeah, they actually had to bring out a lawyer for that.
If you cross out the good one, that's your fault.
Yep.
So that's the ruling on that one.
It's the same place where I saw Wheel of Fortune back in 2013.
Now, and I know Wheel of Fortune has done it from Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
I mean, not from Radio City.
Yeah, they've done it in Madison Square Garden a couple of times. Once in 2013 and once in '99 when Jeopardy was doing it. I mean, that's where the group of pill pushers moment happened.
I hear a doggy.
Yeah, my doggy.
What does your doggy have to say about Jeopardy?
Give him a microphone.
All right, sweet nothings. What do you say about Jeopardy, huh? She's shy.
I think that show's gone to the dogs.
And that's my dog.
Ow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got about 30 minutes left.
Yeah, we're trying to get somebody else to come in in as well.
Well, we were trying to get him to come in, and I don't think he could have joined us tonight.
No, he said, he can't seem to get in and everything.
Yeah, pass him this, Scott. I'm going to pass you the link in. Copy the link off of right here that I sent you. Copy that one and send it to him because you gave a longer link and that says you can't use the longer link. I have to shorten it.
Okay. Where are you sending it to?
Look in your Facebook in the Facebook chat between me and you. That's when I said the one that says this is the real link. Use that one.
Okay.
Well, when it's all said and done, how do you think James will be remembered? Do you think he'll be remembered as the guy who beat Jeopardy, or just another one of the many champions that took the show for one heck of a ride?
Well, that's going to depend on how long he lasts. I mean, if we see him last till at least the end of the season, then yes, he will be spoken in the same sentence as Rudder and Jennings. If he loses within the next week or so, I mean, he will just be a flash in the pan who will may just win the next Tournament of Champions, and we won't see him again for 5 years. He'll just be another Tournament of Champions winner.
Okay. But remember, from small things come great beginnings. I mean,
yeah.
Big things come from small beginnings. I think you got that one backwards there.
Well, thanks. We got to remember, a game show guy got his start in the business because he was a former Tournament of Champions winner on the Art Fleming days.
Jay Wolpert.
Right. Jay Wolpert.
Yep, Jay Wolpert. He got his start in show business because he was a former winner of the Art Fleming era of the Tournament of Champions.
I mean, so do you think that maybe, because I know that for Alex's replacement, I know Ken and Brad have been ballied about. I don't know if James is really going to be ballied about there, considering he doesn't have he's not very charismatic, although he can read clues, I think, effectively.
But, now with this, do we put him in the conversation? Or do you think he's a dark horse in all of this?
I'd say a dark horse, considering the fact that, again, because Ken, as I said before, he's very witty, personable. He can poke fun at himself. I mean, Brad hosted a quiz show in his native Pennsylvania. I mean,
all right, here we go. We got him in now.
Hey,
and let's welcome to the podcast, Jordan. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No problem. Glad that you're able to join us. And I know you've spoken highly of Game Show Talking Fun as well. So,
I am fond of a lot of game show podcasts because it's a very, very niche genre of audio broadcasting. So
right.
so I mean, mine just like a solo deep dive thing. Yours is a fun conversational piece, I find.
Right.
It's one that's supposed to, it's because the way I look at these genres, there's like confrontational, there is discussion wise, and there's deep dive.
Yeah.
And when you watch game show, and when you listen to Game Show Talking Fun, it's kind of like a friendly conversation. It's one where it's sort of like kind of like if you listen to a comic book podcast, how it's like it almost feels like you're at a comic book shop and the guy who works there is kind of like talking. I mean, it's kind of like if you were like having some sort of weird game show comic book store and it's just like, hey, how's it going? What do you want? Do you want some card sharks? Do you want some
worst game show ever?
I'm pretty sure you can press your luck there in the back. Can you get me some of that?
Sure.
We're all out, but we're going to coming this summer.
Yeah.
Worst revival ever.
Well, let's hope that. Let's hope that it's not. Now,
and
I'm
Jordan,
not sure
if you look at my screen, you see that spreadsheet. That's a list of that's a record of James current totals.
Alrighty. So what have I missed? Are we talking Survivor? Are we talking Jeopardy? What's
Jeopardy.
the
about James on Jeopardy?
Yeah, we're talking about the current Jeopardy champion and what he's been doing with the show.
Oh, James Halltower, hashtag Jeopardy James. Join the conversation, hashtag Jeopardy James. At Jeopardy, hashtag Jeopardy James.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, Jordan?
Dude's a monster. Dude is like, he's like what you want in a. He might very well beat Watson.
All right, Jordan, I asked this to everyone in the panel tonight, so now I'll ask you. Do we put James in the category of the greatest of all time?
Ooh, okay. See, I'm going to be the harsh person to say, I mean, I would say because the trio is always going to be Brad, Ken, and I guess now James.
Right.
It's kind of just where do you perceive gameplay as? Because Ken definitely has the endurance because he's won so many games.
Right.
Brad has won most of the tournaments. Like he's a top tournament killer, which is the most important thing in terms of champions.
Go ahead, Elliot.
Brad is undefeated.
Yeah.
Brad has never lost against a human opponent.
Emphasis on human opponent.
Emphasis on human opponent, but Brad has never lost against a human opponent.
And he's always going up against Ken.
Yeah. They're always the ones going at it.
3 tournaments in a row.
So to me, I would be more on Team Brad than Team James. Plus, he has more personality. He has more of like a quirky, like he's kind of like a everyday game show contestant vibe. If you ever like see his interviews, where James is, I would say he's a silent destroyer because he doesn't really have the quirks. He just has the facial cues.
That of like a poker player.
Yes. Now,
Someone who might be in Vegas and does a lot of gambling, especially in sports, you say?
And considering I actually am a poker dealer myself, so I see that all the time. And I mean, even in the poker room, everybody's talking about him, but it's like they're talking about him like I guess we can say the wrong reasons.
all right. James? All right, then. Jordan, question.
Yes.
We all were talking earlier about has James larcened Jeopardy? In other words, has he cracked the code? In your opinion, has he done that? Or do you think what he's doing is, I guess you could say, a legitimate strategy going from here on out?
I will say it's a legitimate strategy. He did not larcen Jeopardy yet.
Right.
Because he's doing forest. He's foresting the board for the daily doubles. And then he's all-inning on the daily doubles as opposed to $5 bets or $10 bets or just base minimums.
Right.
Because he's well aware he is the only one allowed the clue.
Yeah, and even on Ken Jennings, he barely bet more than 5,000 on a daily double.
Well, he always bet to the nearest 10,000.
Because his idea is supposed to lock in as soon as possible. Lock in. Because then when you lock in, you're good as gold.
Yeah, when he bets on those second and third daily doubles, he usually leaves at least 10 to 15,000 for himself. Even if he does get it wrong, he's still going to win.
So I wouldn't say he larcened the game quite, but I do think the producers are most definitely going to be talking about this in between seasons.
Okay.
Yeah, we were just talking about that
Brings
too.
me to the next question I was going to ask you. That brings me to my next question. If you are Harry Friedman, what do you do here?
Well, you don't invite James to the Tournament of Champions yet. You have to wait till his game plays out.
Right. And I'll just quickly refresh what Woj said earlier. It's like don't even have the tournament. Just hand him the check.
Now, truth
Here's
be
the question here: how would you stop him? How would you stop James from winning? How do you do it? What's your strategy? I came up with a way, but what's yours?
Okay. I hate to sound like I'm going to rig the game because this might sound like I'm rigging the game. I would try and get a plant. I would try to go to like the trivia championships and find someone who has leagues ahead of him in trivia, and try and get them to cast to Jeopardy.
Yeah, we will.
Like for instance, Raj. Remember Raj? He was on the chase and he went solo against the Beast.
Yeah, I mean,
see if you can get Raj on.
I mean, James's only Achilles heel has been with 500 questions. It's the only game show where he's lost on.
That's right. But I mean,
I didn't know he was on 500 questions.
I mean, anybody who was anybody was on 500 questions.
And you can't get 3 wrong answers in a row.
Now, one way I thought of the way to get to beat James is with the daily doubles. That's his Achilles heel. He's going to bet.
Oh, you mean like as a player?
But he's going to bet big on them. So the trick is make the daily doubles a tough question. The really super tough questions. That's not rigging the game because you just because you have a tough question. But it does. It will.
Like if I was a contestant against James.
No,
so here's what I would have done because
that's
this
what
is.
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying. Well, hold on. What I'm saying is, as the producers, make the daily doubles difficult, almost impossible. You know he's going to bet big on them, and that's where he's going to lose. That's his Achilles heel.
It does. I mean, you want to make like Detonator and Debt, where it's just like the most difficult category of the game, so the most difficult clue determined by producers.
Yeah.
Right.
Kill him with the daily doubles. That's how you kill him.
Because if I was a contestant, what I would have to do is basically do what he does, is just farm for the doubles, which means unfortunately scattering the board again, Forest.
I just want to let you know that I'll bring out my spreadsheet again, and I'll point something out to you in a second here.
Yeah.
And
Hold on a second. Here it comes, and there it is. Now look at my screen. You see the bottom row? We're at game 17. He didn't find any daily doubles, and he still had $29,600 before the final. A runaway game. He cannot be caught even without the daily doubles. He has to. The only way he's going to lose is if he gets a daily double wrong. And if he even got the final Jeopardy wrong in game 6, he only took away 54. He only took away 27,190 because he had around 30,100, and that's the game where I keep score for myself. I actually beat him in that game because I knew the final Jeopardy and he didn't.
The only thing that will defeat James Holzhauser is James Holzhauer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if I was a contestant, what I would do is almost think the reverse of Jeopardy. Like first you gotta force the board and get the daily doubles and eradicate him. Second, I would just ring in first, even if I don't know the answer.
That would not work.
Because if you hit the buzzer before him, you have like 10 seconds. You have like a very short amount of time.
5 seconds.
5. So you can easily just ring in and then hesitate and then come up with the clue, the correct response, and just keep going that. Yes, you're going to run out the time, but that will give you plenty of time away from James to just start clearing house.
I think Scott Hostetler called that the "Hey, I know it" strategy from his book.
Oh, wow.
What's the "Hey, I know it" strategy?
Basically, just buzz in first, even if you don't know it, and then it'll come to you within 5 seconds.
Now,
Yes, and that was also proven by Hop Trout on the $100,000 Name That Tune.
Oh yeah, that one guy. He kept on guessing. He took like 10 minutes to answer all his questions. I saw that guy.
Yeah, he stalled Jim Lang as much as he could just to.
And Jim was having like an angry moment there. It's like, okay.
Right.
but still, that was one of them of all the. I know we're talking about Name That Tune now, but of all the episodes of Name That Tune I've watched, that one was the most entertaining.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, he pretty much beat the system there. I mean, he even passed on the last tune just so he could have the time to guess the tune he already passed on.
Right.
Now, Jordan.
Yeah.
One question, and then you'll be all caught up with where our conversation's at. We were talking earlier, Alex has cancer.
Oh, the unfortunate stage 4 pancreatic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very unfortunate. Do you put James in the conversation of being Alex's successor?
No,
you don't.
I don't think so. As much as I like James, I think people would want to see James better as a contestant doing what he does best, which is answer the questions, not being a personable person reading the clues. I think what they're going to look for in a replacement host when that day comes, hopefully longer than what we're expecting, that Alex can pick that replacement host. It's Alex's choice because it makes it a whole lot easier for the PR team. Because then whoever it is, they can say, well, it's Alex's choice. We listen. Freeman can make the blitz. So rather it's Laura Coates or CNN personality or choice or a stand-up comedian because that's the trend right now. Who knows?
We've already discussed this on our last podcast, but for anyone who missed that, why don't we go over some of our choices on who we thought? And I'll go through one of the comments. One of the comments on the last video suggested Mark Summers as host of Jeopardy.
I don't think so.
No. I
No,
don't think
That's not his thing.
I mean, but
Mark
here's
Summers
some
probably
things
not-
to look at. Look at
probably
history
not his
IQ
sport.
though.
Yeah, he did.
That's
and we want
Yeah.
someone who's in it for the long haul. I mean, Mark Summers is in his late 60s now.
So we get somebody like Ken or Brad to host it.
Yeah, they would
Like,
be in it for the
my
long
vote
haul.
was Chris. My choice is Chris Harrison for Millionaire.
okay.
And my choice was Ken, Brad, or the guy that did Rock and Roll Jeopardy.
Jeff
Jeff
Probst.
Probst.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
think Jeff Probst is going to do it, considering he is the executive producer of Survivor now, so he runs that show practically.
See, I
No, he is co-executive producer with Mark Burnett.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Burnett essentially gave him the keys to the kingdom.
alrighty. I'm gonna throw my hand and say it's not gonna be a Jeopardy contestant, because if it's a Jeopardy contestant, they want to be famous for the answering of questions.
Right.
So,
And remember, we did have a Jeopardy contestant become a game show host as well.
but what you could think of is celebrity Jeopardy contestants, like whoever was the best at those, or the Power Players week of shows.
You mean like Michael McKeon or Anderson Cooper?
Yes, like some of those people would work. 'Cause
How
it's
about
like,
Wolf,
they
how
clearly are
about
aware of the game.
Wolf Blitzer?
My pick was Dan Patrick.
Was my choice.
Yeah.
Mine was a Dan Patrick because of Sports Jeopardy. He already knows how to cross the boards and read the clues.
Right. And same with Jeff, because he did Rock and Roll Jeopardy.
I always made the joke of it's going to be a silver fox. It's going to be someone who's like a silver hair, white haired person.
Like
with a little
Anderson
bit of charm.
Cooper?
Like Anderson Cooper, Wolf Blitzer, even though he did horrible on Celebrity Jeopardy.
Right. Oh, who was that guy that did
Did what?
ESPN's 2-minute drill?
That was
Kenny
Mayne?
Mayne.
Yes, Kenny Mayne.
I could see him hosting it if he's still around.
I mean,
That's a maybe.
the only
Consider-
issue is I think a lot of people are expecting a journalist, a news figure, but considering how the level of punditry is going on these days in terms of reporters, if you get someone who's like a CNN person or an MSNBC person or a Fox person,
Yeah, they
there's
go
going to
in with
be
their political baggage.
they're going to have political baggage, and you're going to get that spite, even if the
Right.
show is apolitical as much as possible.
And Jeopardy does, or you get Pat to do both shows. There you go.
Jack, I don't think so.
No, here, it
He
would be
goes
bigger.
to Jeopardy once, but I think that's it.
No,
Well,
I-
remember,
I don't
Alec.
know. No,
Well,
no. You can't have Pat do both shows because he'll exhaust himself. What you can do is get Vanna to host Wheel of Fortune and have Pat host Jeopardy and have them have all of their footage together.
That would be interesting. Vanna hosting Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, does she get a mail letter turner?
Oh no, it's just
No,
going to
hold
show
on,
up on the
but-
board.
But that's not
So we bring back
back.
Bring back Susan Stafford.
we bring back Summer Bartholomew.
Guys, hold on. Vanna hosting Wheel is not that far-fetched. Remember, she was the host of the video game versions of Wheel of Fortune for PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2
And the PC version.
and the PC version. She was
Sorry,
the-
you lost your turn.
And she also took over hosting duty the one day when Pat got laryngitis, remember?
Yes,
I remember that.
Yeah.
I think
Okay,
there was
well,
talk
who else
of
who else has been on a Merv Griffin production? Like Ty Treadway for Merv Griffin's Passwords.
True. We forgot about him.
well, Vernon Kay from the $1 Million Mind Game.
You
True.
got,
Cedric the Entertainer from It's Worth What?
Are you sure?
Oh, no, I do not want Cedric on hosting a game show. He did lousy with Millionaire. I don't want to see him again.
How about
He's
Meredith?
an entertainer, not a host.
Well, Meredith has already got her own game show coming up.
Yep. What is it? 25 words or less, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she did that
Seacrest.
last year. She did that last year too. I saw that.
Well, that one's going to be in national syndication.
How about the guy that did Celebrity Name Game?
Craig Ferguson.
I don't know. Considering, I mean, can you really
yeah,
distinguish his Scottish accent with in reading those clues?
it's a bit the Jeopardy is too serious for Craig Ferguson.
You know what? This doesn't sound far fetched to me, but think of people like Bill Nye the Science Guy, or think of people like Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson could probably.
Do you think?
I don't think Neil deGrasse Tyson wants the job. He's an astronomer. He's an astronomer, not a game show host.
Do you think Wink would come out of retirement to host Jeopardy?
No.
Not for the long haul. He's in his mid-80s now.
He could do for a fill-in season maybe, but I don't think he'd do it. I don't think he'd stay with it.
I mean, and also, I mean, Tom Bergeron, I don't know how ABC would let him do that.
If I were to pick like a former game show host for Jeopardy, I mean, there's a couple. You have to, because you got to remember, this is just purely just factuals. So
right. Well, the only ones that are left are Tom Kennedy, but he's up there in age. With Peter Marshall.
Peter Marshall, he's in his 90s now.
Yeah.
I would
point is, we want someone who's going to be in it for the long haul, who can host the show for just as long as Alex.
We're going to be looking for an actor.
That's why I keep bringing up Chris Harrison.
Or a former champion.
Now, what about the guy that did Catch 21?
Alfonso Ribeiro, he's getting ready to do the revival of Catch 21.
I want Alfonso to host it because it seems like complete opposites. A show about like statue authors and a show where people get hit in the balls with bowling pins. It's great.
Isn't he already the host of America's Funniest Home Videos?
Yes.
Well,
I say Pat Kierman, Studio 7, World Series of Pop Culture, The Grand Slam.
I love that one. He'd be perfect for that one.
Right.
He has that same level of intellect and now.
The question is, I mean, he's not that big of a name. I mean, he only hosted a few national shows. I mean, he's well known in New York on New York One.
Right.
But I think
all right. What about Al Roker?
I don't think so. I mean, I know he got an Emmy nomination for Remember This, but I never saw that. But Family Feud, he was way in over his head.
Yeah.
What about the guy that did Russian roulette?
Mark Wahlberg.
I mean, he'd be in it for the long haul.
Mark Wahlberg will gladly do it.
And we know that Todd Newton would do it for the long haul.
I mean, he would, but again, I think Wahlberg is a bigger name than Newton. I mean, people might already confuse him for. I mean, they might be expecting him to come out in Calvin Klein underwear.
And Newton, I think, is still starting up his tattoo shop. So if it started like next week, it wouldn't work.
Right.
But in conclusion, guys, because we got a few minutes. We only have a few minutes left.
Yep.
About less than 3.
Yeah. In conclusion, is James at the end of it all, is he good for Jeopardy? Woj.
Considering that records are meant to be broken, yes. I mean, any long-running champion is good for Jeopardy, both in terms of getting people to talk about the show as water cooler conversation and getting people tournament champions. I mean, it will get people talking.
Okay.
And there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Yes,
Sorry.
definitely good for Jeopardy. The only thing it's bad for is their budget, but hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles. They do the possibility could happen, and guess what? They already had Ken Jennings, which was getting $33,000 a game, so they knew it could happen, and guess what? It happened.
Right. And I'm gonna have to agree with Owen and Woj on that, yes, but and like what I said earlier, I'm hearing about it for like amongst all the other people in the poker room. So amongst other gamblers are talking about him too. And everything.
No such thing as bad publicity.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah.
And finally, Jordan, I'll let you have the closing thought tonight.
Jeopardy, I've said this on my podcast, Game Shows I Suppose, available now. Jeopardy is the ambassador of game shows. Like, even if you're not a game show fan like any of us, people do watch Jeopardy, especially in moments like this, because of the way it's a competition in terms of trivia and the amount of background when it comes to being good at the game. James is currently that power player. He is the LeBron James. He is the Derek Jeter. He is
The Mark Lebet.
The Mark Lebet. He is the Mark Lebet. Yeah, good idea. So people are watching him because he keeps making home runs. He keeps knocking it out of the park. He keeps shooting threes. He keeps making touchdowns in the form of Jeopardy in terms of these daily double wagers that people are gravitated towards. That he's going to be famous when his run ends, and whoever is going to be the one that knocks out James is definitely going to have a little bit of notoriety as well.
Now, do you think he's aiming to beat either Ken's $2 million 74 game record, or is he gunning for Brad's overall total?
I mean, if I'm going to guess, I don't think he's looking at the numbers. I don't think he's looking at beating those records. I think he's just there
having fun. You think
he's taking it one day at a time. He's taking it one day at a time, and just everyone else is worrying about the numbers. But he knows the second those records show up, he'll be off his game.
Right. But I'm sure he's. Go ahead.
All right.
That'd be one serious bad beat when he gets beat.
That being said, gentlemen, this has been a great conversation. Really, it's been superb. Jordan, I thank you for being with us.
Yep, and you are always welcome to come and join us as well.
Be watching our YouTube channel for when our next podcast will be. I thank you all for being here. Until next time, I'm David Hammond. Have a good night, everybody.
See you next time.
Thanks for your luck. Goodbye.
Yep.